We're going to now find the slope of a line when given 2 points. And this time, instead of graphing it and figuring from the line that we drew, we're going to figure it just on the 2 points that we've been given. The formula says y2 minus y1 and x2 minus x1. So I've taken the 2 points and I've labeled them. This is the first ordered pair. So this is your x1, y1. This is your second ordered pair, so there's your x2, y2. Now, here we go. It says start with y2. Well, y2 is 5. Put a minus sign in, and y1 is 1. 5 minus 1. Now we're going to go to x2, which is a negative 1, subtract x1, which is 4. Now remember way back at the beginning of our modules when we first started Math 098 that we do not subtract, we turn it into an addition. So I'm going to keep the first one. I know that 5 minus 1 is 4, but I taught you that, so I'm going to keep going in that path. I'm going to go keep the first one, add the opposite. Keep the first one, add the opposite. So we now have 5 plus a negative 1, which is 4. And we have a negative 1 and a negative 4, which is a whole bunch of negative 5. So the slope on this is a negative 4 over 5. You can put that negative on the top or the bottom or in the middle. And that's what we got the first time out when we drew it. Okay, let's try another one. I have a negative 2, negative 3, and I have a 2, 4. Okay, I'm going to go to the second y, which is the 4, and I'm going to put a minus sign, and then I'm going to go to the first y, which is a negative 3. I'll put that in parentheses just so you can see the subtract compared to the negative 3. Now I'm going to go to the second x, which is the 2, and I'm going to put 2 minus the first x, which is a negative 2. Well, let's change our subtraction to addition. Keep your first one, add the opposite. Keep the first one, add the opposite. We now have 4 plus 3 is 7, and 2 plus 2 is 4. Our answer to this one is 7 over 4, both positive. Okay, let's go try our next one. A negative 5, 4, and a 1, negative 3. Okay, let's go to the second y, which is a negative 3, minus the first y, which is 4. Let's go to our second x, which is 1, and we'll subtract our first x, which is a negative 5. Okay, here we go. I don't subtract. Negative 3 plus a negative 4, and keep the first one, add the opposite. We now have a negative and more negative is a negative 7 over a positive 6. Negative 7 over 6 is the slope. All right, let's try those x and y lines and see what it looks like when we work it this way. We have a 5, 2, and we have a 6, 2. Okay, here we go. Let's start with the second y, which is 2. Subtract the first y, which is 2. And on the bottom, we're going to start with the second x, which is 6, minus the first x, which is 5. I'm going to add the opposite, 2 plus a negative 2 is 0, and 6 plus a negative 5 is 1. Now, you know in fraction form that the bottom number tells you how many pieces you have in all, and the top number says how many I'm going to let you have or how many I'm going to keep for myself. if I have a pizza and it's all in one piece, and I'm going to give you 0, then there's 0. And if you see a 0 on the top, then the answer is 0, and that means that your y-line, once again, has a 0 slope. So that's an example of 0 slope when the 0's on top. Okay? Now let's look at the one where the x's were the same. We have a -3, -2, and we have a -3, 6. Now using the same formula, let's see what happens this time. The second y is a 6 minus the first y, which is a -2. The second x is a -3 minus the first x, which is a -3. All right, let's change our subtraction to addition. Keep your first one, add the opposite. Keep your first one, add the opposite. Now, when we add this time, look what we get. We get 6 plus 2 is 8. And when you have a -3 and you add to it a +3, you get 0. And when you have, bottom number is how many pieces you have. When you have 0, it's going to be kind of hard to give 8 to somebody. This cannot be done. So this is referred to as, you know, undefined. So when the 0's on the bottom, cannot be done, undefined. When the 0's on top, the slope is 0, and you have a y-line that's going horizontally. There we go. So we found slope both by graphing and then counting and our rise over our run. And then we came and used our y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1 to find the slope. Sometimes you could do it either way. I usually use it this way, or I'd plot it and then I go verify, and then when my numbers are too big to graph, I'll also use it this way. So we've learned to tell what the slope is. Good.